little Tom Petty for us on this Wednesday. Um, we have kind of a lengthier lecture, I would say 20-25 minutes, and then a short dice assignment. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're on quarantine week 4. So I'm going to lower this a bit. All right, so we're on quarantine week 4. Jump in here. We are on Wednesday, right in here, and you can see lecture and notes on the development of language. Watch the lecture and take notes, please. And then you have a 2 to 3 response to Patricia Cole, which I'll explain within my lecture why she is so valuable for us to study. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Just a reminder that this will be our second dice assignment. We have the Little Riding Hood assignment that you guys have done, and then we'll have the Patricia Cole response as our 2 dice assignments this week. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This is where we left off in our last time, obviously talking about the phonemes and morphemes of the of language, of especially human language. And so you guys did the dice assignment, or you're doing that dice assignment of Little Rat Riding Hood. Well, let's move on from there. So now let's talk about the structure of language. Many of you know from your English classes, that grammar is the rules of language. So how we group those morphemes together that are made of phonemes, how we group those morphemes together is our grammar, the rules of language, and how we place certain words that are verbs and nouns. That's all the syntax of things, how they're arranged to make sense. Semantics is how meaning is conveyed. So you guys have been looking at idioms, and idioms are a part of our language, of the English language. They're a part of many people's language, but when we use idioms, obviously they're arranged in a syntax way, but the semantics of it have very different meaning than the literal translation of those idioms. All right. So this specifies how meaning is understood and communicated. All right. And again, remember, you can pause me at any time as you're writing things down. So that's kind of like the makeup of language, which obviously, when you study English, you study the makeup of the English language. What we want to do with psychology, though, is study the acquisition of the English language, or language in general. So birth, we're going to start with a little timeline of how we develop language. And this, again, is all getting to what Patricia Cole is going to talk about. The more you have the background of this lecture, the more you're going to understand what Patricia Cole is saying. So at birth, our language is very limited to what we can control within our body, and that is a lot of autonomic nervous system. So the cooing, the crying, the gurgling that babies make. And as much as that seems not like significant, that's actually really significant, especially the cooing and the gurgling. Because again, as I said in our last lecture, they're learning how to use the muscles, the tongue, in order to make sound. Now, about 4 to 6 months, babies will start to babble. And this is where they're starting to babble the phonemes that they hear those around them using them. They're going to start to try and mimic those phonemes. So babbling is very important. It's not like kids are just doing that because of the heck of it. They're practicing. They're learning the fundamentals to language, and that's those phonemes. So I have a couple of videos that I want to show you guys. I'm actually going to show them within the lecture instead of having you guys watch them on your own. So babbling, in case those of you that may not know exactly what I mean by babbling, this is a great little video that shows that idea of babbling.
Do you remember who was all there? Luke and Chloe?
All right, so this is a great video to show babbling of babies, and you can see she has the intonation of her voice. That's the word I'm looking for. How her voice goes up and down. She gets excited. That's a lot of the mimicking that she's doing of probably her parents, and practicing a lot of those phonemes. And you hear a lot of those phonemes. And remember, a lot of those phonemes probably start with an M or a B because those are kind of the easier ones to say. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that babbling is actually really important because it is a practicing that she's doing of those phonemes. Why don't you watch another one? This is a viral video of two twins talking to each other. Um, so once again, use of phonemes. But also notice the use of non-verbal language that they use. So they continue on like this, obviously communicating in some way between those two, but using the phonemes, using the nonverbal language, looking like one is kind of making as upset as the other for losing a sock. But a great video to watch if you want to see the whole thing. Just look up "Talking Twin Babies" Part 2. But yeah, again, we can see that babbling is super important. This is a stage that kids need to do. Sorry about that. Kids need to do in order to get ready to actually speak those morphemes. Now, what we have found is that kids are actually ready to speak morphemes before their mouths are ready to speak morphemes. Let me repeat that. Kids are actually cognitively ready to speak morphemes before their mouths are ready to speak morphemes. So kids are actually understanding language earlier than their first word. And here's how we know this. Let's watch a video about baby sign.
It was a Sunday morning, and a pregnant woman comes in. The third.
This is my daughter Freeze, and she just turned 1, and I want to show you some of the signs that she knows. Where's Dad? Dada. How about Mama? Where's Mommy? Mommy. Excellent. What's the sign for eat? Eat. How about more? More. How about finished? Finished. Good. And Freeze, what's this? O is for Cheerios. We do O's. Cheerios. Good. And what's this? Stars. These are stars. Good girl. And Freeze, what's this? What's that? Apple. Good girl, apple. And oh, how about this? What's this? Cheese. Good, we do this for cheese. Good. How about milk? What's the sign for milk? Milk. Good. And how about kiwi? That's right. We finger spell kiwi. Kiwi. And she's not really finger spelling it, but she's trying. What's kiwi? Water. She just asked for water. That's right. Water. Good. And water. Good. What's the sign for kiwi? Kiwi. See how she's trying to finger spell it? Good. You want more water? And Freeze, what's the sign for book? Book. That's right. And how about hat? That's right. How about light? Light. Good girl. And what's the sign for cracker? Cracker. Good. And how about bat? Bat, that's right. That's a sign for bat. And what about baby? And baby. Good girl. And how about ball? Ball, yes. And how about sleep? Sleep. That's right. That's a sign for sleep. And how about phone? Do you know a sign for phone? Phone. Good girl. Those are just a few of the signs that she knows, and she's very verbal, as you can hear some of the words as she signed them. She knows over 20 words and 30 signs, so she has a vocabulary of over 50 words. Some people are worried that if you sign with them, that it will inhibit their vocabulary. That's not true. But as you can see, it doesn't. Whenever I sign to her, I'm constantly talking to her, so there's no reason why it would inhibit her vocabulary. And as you can see with her signing and talking, signing really does work.
So really kind of cool that we've discovered that babies know more language than they have the ability to actually do when they talk. So baby sign language has become a really big thing so that babies can convey what they need, what they want, without having to speak it yet, because they can't form some of those phonemes, like Cheerios. That's a pretty complicated word, phoneme wise. So if you're able to sign that, imagine as a baby that frustration lessens of, I can't convey what I want if I have the signing ability, because I can control my hands more than I can control my tongue at this time in my life. Okay. So really kind of a cool development. At 12 months, babies will likely say their first words. I'm going to exit out of here just so that we don't have all these little things popping up everywhere. And I'm going to just go ahead and present again. So at 12 months, babies should be saying their first word. Oftentimes, other than ma and da, okay, or ba, that type of thing, they're going to start saying their first words, more complicated words. 2 years and up, they're going to start to use telegraphic speech, which means they're not going to have the syntax really down, but they may say things like baby up, wanting you to pick them up, or baby hungry. Okay, so they're going to start using like 2-3 word sentences that don't really have that syntax yet. They're going to start to use overextension speech at about 2 years. I sawed the kitty. Okay, because they know that there's the rule of ed to show past tense, but they don't know the rule that it's just I saw the cat or the kitty. So they add rules that they're learning in their head to words that they don't know yet are kind of the abnormality of our language. And so that would be an overextension of some of those rules. This is a little bit of a chart. I wouldn't expect you to write this down, but I want you to see. So at about 1 to 1.5, toddlers develop around a 20-word vocabulary. Now that's just of spoken word. We can increase that by using baby sign, okay? By 2, they have about a 200 to 300 word vocabulary. If we go down to 4, we can see that we've just got an explosion of word vocabulary. By the time they're 12, that time a child is 12, they'll understand about 50,000 words. So you can just see that explosion. Now that explosion can be even higher depending on the reading of that child. Children that read or are read to, children that are read to become children that read. That is a high correlation right there. Reading to your child will help them become a reader, okay? In addition, it increases these numbers by multitudes when a child either is read to or reads. If you're trying to figure out how you would ever get your child to be exceptionally smart, read to them. That is such a huge, high correlation. There's correlative studies that the way that you have kids that score very well on ACTs and SATs is they're long time readers. That any SAT prep class doesn't have nearly the effect of kids that have just are long time readers. So it's kind of crazy. We're preparing for the ACT, the SAT the minute we start to speak. Simply because if you learn how to read, which we'll be talking about on Friday about reading, if you learn how to read and you become an avid reader, that's the best prep that you can do for any kind of standardized test. Okay. No one disputes the stages of language development. Like, all psychologists agree, this is how it works. But there are two main questions in terms of what it all means. Is language acquisition a product of nature or nurture? That is a huge question within linguistic psychology. Is language acquisition a product of nature or nurture? What comes first, language or thought? These are the two questions that linguistic psychologists continue to work on. Does our language come first and allow us to speak? Or does thought come first and allow language? Okay, so it's definitely a philosophical type of question because we're not ever really going to find out, but we might. So is it nature or nurture? Now, this controversy stems back to Skinner versus a guy named Noam Chomsky, who is still alive today. Skinner says that children learning language is about operant conditioning, reinforcing the use of language, reinforcing rules. So it goes back to the idea if the child says, I sawed the kitty, that mom says, no, you saw the kitty. And that reinforcement helps them to learn the rules of language. Chomsky says the brain is hardwired for learning language, that we are actually have some sort of software within our brain that allows us to learn language, that it's not necessarily about reinforcement. You're going to see in this TED Talk about what we call the critical period of learning language. During the first few years of life, we are most receptive to learning language. And you're going to see a graphic that basically shows us that after a certain point of our life, it is really hard to learn language. That we have this critical period where it's easy and we don't even have to try very much. That children during this critical period, if they're exposed to one language, 5 languages, it doesn't matter. They are wired to learn language during this critical period. So the idea of what thought comes first, thought or language, we know that it's likely, back to that whole nature-nurture controversy of things, that it's likely both. And I'm going to pull this up here. Sometimes children use words to communicate what they already know, and sometimes they form concepts to fit the words they hear. So it's likely a mixture of both. Remember the cake analogy. You need the ingredients to make a cake, but it's not a cake unless you put it in the oven, the environment, to make it a cake. Okay. So this is the controversy that we see about linguistic psychology, is how much of it is nature, how much of it is nurture. And Patricia Cole, the video you're going to watch, she is a modern day linguistic psychologist, and she's kind of from the cognitive neuropsychology perspectives. And she has a theory called statistical learning of language. Her belief is that children take statistics as they watch us speak language, even when they're babies. And they break apart that language. Their brain is wired to break apart that language and take these statistics of how language is performed. Children's genes are designed in a way that prepares them to learn language as they socially interact. So what I'd like you to do is to watch the Patricia Cole TED Talk, and that's where we'll stop today with this lecture. But I'd like you to watch the Patricia Cole TED Talk, and let's go back to our Schoology here. All right, here's the TED Talk. So you could click on that. And then once you've done that TED Talk, if you would, please do one of the following in our discussion post for our DICE assignment. You're either going to write a 2 to 3 sentence response to the TED Talk by Patricia Cole. What thoughts did you have while watching? What did you think of her studies? Okay, addressing either of those prompts, or respond to a classmate's reflection in 2 to 3 sentences. Response can't just say, yes, I agree with you, or that was a good point. You won't be given credit for that. Your response needs to add to the conversation. Okay. So that is your DICE assignment for Wednesday. Watch Patricia Cole, watch this lecture, watch Patricia Cole, and then do your reflection. All right, guys, that is it. Wishing you a happy Wednesday. Hopefully you're getting out to enjoy this wonderful weather. It's supposed to get cold again this weekend. So get out there, do a hike, sunbathe, have fun, rest your mind a little bit, and we will be seeing you soon. Bye, guys.